So I would implore you guys to actually stay tuned, and hopefully we can learn a lot together this morning. Okay guys, so the first thing I'll be doing right here is introducing us to the software I will be working with this morning before we get right into the course. And the software I'll be working with this morning is basically Visual Studio Code. So I have my Visual Studio Code right here installed, and for you to work with HTML, all you need for starters is just your Visual Studio Code. And after that, I make sure I have an extension installed called Live Server. So I'll just show you right here. Just search for Live Server, and right here the one with that is designed by Ritwik Day, that is the one that I want you guys to install. Okay, so that would help us to serve our project. It will act as our local server for our HTML code. Okay guys, so moving forward now, let's now go to our slide and see where we are going to be starting off from. Okay, so once again I want to welcome us to this HTML course, and I hope that we'll have a lovely time together. Okay, so a brief introduction to HTML. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is the standard markup language used to create web pages. So what this means is, so many people confuse programming languages and markup languages with one another, but right here I want us to know that HTML is not a programming language. Instead, it is a standard markup language that we use to create web pages. Then it is also used to describe the structure of web pages. This is we use HTML to actually describe how we want our web page to actually look like. We actually use it to like describe the structure. It is the way we want it to be organized, and that is what we use HTML for. And HTML basically consists of elements that could have attributes. So we'll be getting into all this later. Then these elements are used to give the browser details of how the web pages should be structured. So basically, when we're working with HTML, we will actually be working with elements. So that is the major instrument that we'll be working with while using HTML. Okay guys, so moving forward, this is the basic HTML page structure. We have the doc type, which tells us of the version of the HTML, or let's say the document type, which we can specify that is HTML. Then we have the root tag, the root HTML tag, which is the HTML tag here, which starts at the root element, is the one that encompasses everything that we want to do. Then we have two tags that are sibling tags. They are they work hand in hand. We have the head tag and we have the body tag. The head tag is used to contain the page metadata. This is where we give the browser vital informations about our web page. And we have the body, which consists of the content of our HTML page itself. So we'll be looking at all of this as we begin to code in just a bit. Okay, moving forward, like I said, here is just a brief explanation of the structure. We have the doc type HTML, which defines that the document is an HTML document. And we have the HTML element, which is the root element of an HTML page. So that serves as the root, and it serves as the container for everything that we are going to be doing. And we have the head element, which contains the meta information about the HTML page. We have the title element, which is used to specify the title of our HTML page. And we have the body, which contains the whole content of our page. And we also have other elements that we would be looking at. The H1 element, the paragraph element are specified here. Okay guys, so without further ado, let's just get right into our coding now. Let's see how we can create that HTML page structure. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is to create an HTML file. And for us to create an HTML file, as you can see here, I've already created a folder named class. And now for us to create an HTML file, I'll just click on here, new file. And for us to create an HTML file, it has to have an extension of .html. So here I'm just going to be creating a file. I'm going to be calling it index.html. So the extension of our file is what makes it an HTML file essentially. Okay guys, so now let's get right into it. Like I said, we need to create a page structure. And for us to do that, we start by creating our doc type element to specify that the type of element document we want to work with is an HTML document. So we have doc type, then we specify that it's an HTML element. After that, we move to the next line and we state the root of our web page, which is the HTML element. And automatically we have the closing tag being added to it, and here we have the head element. And something about Visual Studio Code is once you type the name of the element, it has IntelliSense to help you to complete it. So here I'm just doing body, and when I click on enter, it helps me to create that. So I have my doc type element here, my HTML element, which is the root of my whole web page. I have the head and I have the body, and in the head I'm just going to be creating a title, and I'm going to be saying HTML class, and in the body I'm going to be creating an h1 tag, and I'm going to be saying welcome. Okay, so and for us to now see what we have done so far, we need to run with our live server, which is why we installed the extension. So I'm going to right click on my page and I'm just going to scroll down, and here we can see open with live server. So once I click on this will open a port on my browser, and I'll be able to see what I have been doing so far. Okay guys, so let me show us my browser so we can see the output in just a minute. Okay, so guys, this is our browser right here, and we can see the output here. And if we look at it very well, we would see that at the top here we are seeing this right here, which says HTML class, and that is our title. And here we have the h1 tag. So this is just basically how to create your first HTML program. So moving on, let's look at how the other things, the elements that we now need to make use of in our HTML. Okay guys, so let's go back to our slide, and now let's see what HTML elements are. And we've, just as I showed us, we've made use of it, but now let's see what they essentially have. So an HTML element, also known as tags, comprises of the start or opening tag, and this may consist or may not consist of attributes. We have the content, we have the end or closing tag. The HTML tag is everything from the opening tag to the closing tag, just as you can see in the example below. We have the tag name right here, we have the content going into in between, and then we have the closing tag right at the end. So if we are to look at the example of the code we've written in our Visual Studio Code, we can see this right here, that we have the opening tag for the head element here, or let me start with the H right here. We can see the major difference between the closing tag and the opening tag is the presence of this / here, which symbolizes a closing tag. So this is the basic structure an element has. We have the opening tag right here, and this opening tag can consist of attributes and may not consist of attributes, and we also have the closing tag right here, which the presence of this / symbolizes that for us. Okay guys, so now let's move on, and now let's talk about what HTML attributes are. So HTML attributes are used to provide more information about an HTML element or tag. So probably we have a tag that we want to give more functionality to, we want to give more information about. We use an attribute, and the attribute is always included in the start or opening tag of an HTML element. For instance, we have an href attribute of the anchor tag right here. So this piece of code right here is going to redirect us to a particular site, or if we include a site right there. So the href attribute is an attribute that is specific to the anchor tag, and as we move along we would see examples of this. But an example I can quickly show us right here of an attribute is the bg color attribute. So I can add a bg color attribute to our h1 tag here, or let me just say to our body tag. So I can say bg color equals red, and this stands for background color. So here we have this attribute and we are setting it to this specific value using the equal to sign. So this right here is our attribute. And if we go back to our web page, and now let's observe the difference in the output that we have here, and now we can see that the background color of our whole page is now red. So when we want to add a specific attribute to our elements, we actually use that. So that we use it to give more information about that particular element, and as we can see, that has changed the whole output that we have originally. So let's get back to our slide, and now the next thing that we want to look at are HTML comments. Now, what are comments? Comments are used to provide documentation in an HTML code. They are also used in the process of debugging, and HTML comments are not displayed on the web page. So when we want to give a specific information about the specific code we are writing, what we are doing in our code, we actually use comments. Comments is available in every programming language, and we use this to provide documentation. That is its original function. We use it to provide documentation, and these comments are not displayed on the web page. They are for the developer themselves. So the developer is using it as a form of documentation, a form of self-information. So you are giving yourself information about what you are doing, because at some point you could be cooking up a very complex algorithm, and you need to, it's not every time you coming back to your code 2 months, 3 months from now, you might not actually remember the thought process that led to that particular algorithm. So it is very good. It's a very good practice for programmers to actually leave documentation in their code. So in HTML, we actually leave comments in this using this specific syntax. So for instance, I want to leave a comment at the top here to state that this is the header or the head of my HTML page. I start with a closing with a less than sign, then I have this, then right in the middle, so I can say this is the head of my web page, and this serves as a comment. Now if we are to look at the output, we would definitely not see this in our output. As you can see here, we are only still seeing welcome, and this is because comments are not for to be displayed on the website. They are just for documentation. So you're telling yourself, okay, this is the head part of my web page. So that is what comments are used for. Another thing comments is used for is for debugging. And the way we do that is, for instance, I don't want this, I want this piece of code to remain, but I don't want it to be displayed. I can actually comment it out. And I can teach us a simple shortcut is Ctrl//. Once you press Ctrl//, it actually comments that particular line out. So if I press Ctrl// on that line again, it returns the exact code. So that is just a quick way to add comments to your code. Ctrl//, it automatically adds the comment for you. So here I've commented out this code, and if I am to go back to my page, I would no longer see that h1 tag right there. So that welcome text is no longer displayed for me because I have actually commented it out. So that is another way that we actually make use of comments. Like I said, comments is used for documentation, is also used to provide debugging purpose. It's also used for debugging. So that is another thing that we actually use comments for. Okay, so now we are now starting to delve deeper into the HTML elements that we are going to be dealing with. So like I said, most things that the HTML is just is used to create structure of a web page, and the thing that we'll be working with mostly are going to be HTML tags or elements. So the first tag that we'll be looking at right here is the headings tag. And headings are used to display titles or subtitles on a web page. They range from H1 to H6, and HTML headings are used to create headings alone and not just to make text bold or big. Now this is very important. This last point is very important because most people make the mistake of using this headings tag to actually make their text bold or big, which is, it gives you the result, but it's not for the right purpose. Because when we are creating a web page, we are giving diverse information to the website, and each tag actually means something to the browser. And when we are talking about SEO, this goes a long way to make your websites come up very fast when being searched, when a search option is being entered. So SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, is where all these things come in very handy. So we have to understand that headings are created using H1 to H6 and not just to make your text big or bold. And this H1 to H6 is the order of importance. So H1 being as the most important heading, H6 being the least important heading. So that is something that we have to take note of as well. Okay guys, so now let's go back to our code and let's work with that. So the first thing I want to do right here is I'm going to clean up this code, and I'm going to show us a quick way that we can actually create our structure. And in HTML, by just typing the exclamation mark, you get this IntelliSense and you hit enter, and that gives you a structure immediately. So we can see here we are already given a basic structure, doc type HTML. We have the HTML tag right here, and we see this HTML tag, it already has this particular attribute called lang, which stands for language, which is to show that we are working with the English language. Okay guys, so that is right there. We also have these meta tags, which I would not be delving into right now. And we have this title, which, as I showed us earlier, is used to display the title of our web page. we have our head and body here, which I'll just be indenting a little bit so as to create a form of good structure. So we have our HTML tag here, which is the root element. We have our body here, we have our head here. So what we say, if we are to describe this website, we would say that the HTML tag and the doc type tag are actually siblings, because they are on the same line of, they fall on the same line, so we call them siblings. So they are sibling tags. And here we say the HTML tag is a parent tag to the head tag and the body tag, because they exist inside of the HTML tag. And we also say the head tag and the body tag are sibling tags. So we use a form of hierarchy, is a form of hierarchy when we are talking about HTML tags. So that is how we describe the structure in our HTML code. So here I'm going to be changing the title, just say HTML web page. And now let's walk through our website. So here I'm going to be creating h1 to h6 tags. So I'm just going to type in h1, h2, h3, okay. So I have my h1 to h6 tag right here, and I'm just going to be inputting the same text into them, which is welcome. So I'm just going to be copying and pasting that, so they will all have the same content. And we can see, now go and look at the output in our browser. So I'll just be running this once more. I'm going to open with live server right here. Okay, so I'll be showing us that in a bit. Okay, so we have it right here. So as you can see that they are all different, the display is all different, and we can see here we have this as the biggest and this as the least, all being displayed welcome, all displaying welcome. So here we have the h1 tag, which serves as the most important of all these tags. It says that what is actually telling the browser is that the content of this tag is the most important title right in this page, followed by the h2, the h1 tags or the heading tags to actually illustrate. We're actually using to tell the browser that this is our title. So title, subtitles. So you're having a page, this your h1 is definitely going to be the title of your whole page. Then every subtitle is going to fall under probably h2 to h6, depending on the level of importance of that particular title. So that is how to go work with the headings tag in HT, like displaying anything that is how would I put it, that is attracting you and giving you a sense of belonging. So this is where the HTML images come in. Now the HTML allows us to display images on our web page, and this helps us to improve the appearance and design of the web page. When you are seeing colors, you are seeing pictures, it helps you to improve your experience, the experience you are having on that web page, and it helps to improve the design of that web page as well. And the tag that helps us to achieve this is the img tag, which is also the image tag. And the image tag has two major attributes: the src attribute, or the source attribute, which specifies the path or URL of the image, and we also have the alt attribute, which is also the alternative text attribute, which specify the text to be displayed if the image is not found or displayed. Then we also have some optional attributes, which is the width and height, which we use to set the width and height of our particular image. So let's just quickly take a look into that. So I'll be adding a comment at the end here, and I'm just going to be saying headings, and right below that I'm going to, let me just add a lot of spaces. Okay, so right below that I'm going to create an image, and for us to create an image we use the img tag, and once I hit enter we see this we can actually can have a URL here or a path. A path is where image is stored on our system. So here I'm going to start with a URL, and I'm going to input a URL that we just generate a random picture for me. So .photos/200. Then in my alternative text I'm just going to have random photo. Okay, so now let's go back, and we should get that displayed for us in our browser. So here we can see this random picture, and what that text does is every time I load this page I get a different image. So once I load this, it actually goes to that URL to get me a random image. So every time I load it I will always get a random image. So that is how to work with a URL. You specify the URL where you want to get your picture from, and having done that you actually just insert it into your source attribute, and that will display. Now let's assume that we are actually entering a wrong website. So if we are entering a wrong website, definitely we can't have access to the pictures right there. So when we don't have access to the picture we want to display, the alternative text is actually being displayed instead. So let me remove this S here, and let's go back to our page. And when it is unable to access that, it would actually just display that alternative text. It is actually trying to access the website, and because it's not able to locate it, we can see here is showing this random text here, this alternative text here saying random photo. So that is how to work with images. So if we are unable to get the image, it actually displays the alternative text right there. And like I said, we can have a path or we can have a URL. Okay guys, so let's go back to our code and let's try and access an image from a URL. So let me get an image and let me just put that right here. So I'm just going to get a random image and I'm just going to put it right there so we can actually see how we can make use of a path in. Okay, let me see if I can grab hold of a random picture that we can actually display. Okay, actually don't have a random picture on my system right now, so let me just quickly get a random picture online. So let's just download a random picture online, and I'll just get that from Pexels. So I can get free pictures from Pexels. Okay, so let's make use of this. So I'm just going to download this. Okay, so let's wait for that to download, and once that finished downloading we can actually just make use of it. Okay, I think that is taking some time. Let me see if I can get just say pictures. Should be able to get something a lot quicker. Okay, so I'm just going to download this picture. Just okay, so we have that done. Now let me just drag and drop it into our code. Okay, so I can just drag and drop that into our code. Okay, so we have the image already in our code. Yep, so now let's now locate that. So for us to access that, we need to include the path, and because it's on the same folder as our HTML file, we can just enter the name. So I'm just going to copy path just like this, or copy relative path. Then I'm going to paste it in my source. I'm just going to add a text, say image. So let's see that with that we should now have the image being displayed on our web page. Okay guys, so as you can see, we already have the image being displayed on our web page, and the other image is also being displayed but is a bit smaller, so that is why we see the first image that is generated randomly here, and we see this image right here. Now we see that this image is a lot bigger than this other image. So because of that, let's now make use of the other optional attributes that we have, which is the width and the height, which you can use to set the width and the height of our image. So here I'm going to be specifying the width, and I'm just going to be making it 200 pixels, and I'm going to be setting the height as well, and I'm going to be saying 200 pixels. So with this, I'm giving it an equal height, equal size as this, because in this website, this 200 here is actually getting a random 200 by 200 pixel picture. So that is what that means. So if we go back to our web page, we can see now we are getting equal size images. So both the picture gotten randomly and the one that we are just getting through our URL is being fitted into it the same size. So if I'm to reload the page, see the first image that we are getting, because we are not getting from a website, we already have it in our code, it loads up very fast. And here we have the other one being gotten from an external website, being a little bit slower. So this is how to work around our HTML images. So I hope you guys are getting a little bit, one or two, out of everything that we are actually doing. Now moving on, the next thing that we want to look at is HTML audio. Now this is one of the tags that people don't actually pay attention to, especially as programmers. They actually don't know that there is a tag that could actually work like this, HTML audio, where we can actually have an audio file on our web page, and we use the audio tag to actually do that. And this audio tag has some attributes that have to be included to actually improve the functionality of the display. So for the audio tag to actually display on our web page, we need to include the controls, which is actually going to add the controls to the audio elements, such as the play button, the pause button, the volume button. We also have the autoplay. This autoplay is actually optional, where we can decide, okay, do we want our autoplay our audio to play immediately with load of the website, and or not to play. So if we had the autoplay attributes, then the audio automatically starts playing. But if we do not add that, the audio would not play. And the other one is the muted attribute. The muted attribute is, okay, if we had the autoplay, if we add the autoplay, we can also optionally add the muted attribute. So which means if you are playing, I want you to be mute, and if I'm not adding the muted attribute, then it means it auto plays with the sound. Okay guys, so that is how we had the audio attribute. So before we move on to the other ones, let me just show us how to make the audio tag work in our HTML code. So we've looked at the headings and we've looked at the images so far. Now let's look at the audio. So the audio tag, so I'm going to be adding that as well, and here I'm just going to specify audio, and as you can see, automatically we have this right here, this source right here, and we see it has a closing tag as well. So here I can specify the path to my audio, and the source attribute, as you know, is, as you can see here, we use it to specify path. So I can use it to specify the path where my audio is located. So I'm just going to drag and drop my audio. I already have a file where I kept my audios, the audios I'll be using for this video. So I'm just going to be dragging and dropping them here. So I'm going to add this to my workspace. Okay, so I have made a mistake. I think I made a mistake right there. Okay, just actually should not add it to my workspace. So that was the mistake I did. I was supposed to just copy it here inside of my project folder. So that was the mistake that came up. Okay, let me try that again. Copy folder. Okay, so we have it right here. So I already copied the folder here, and we have the audio files here. So I have 3 audio files here. I have an MP3 file, I have an OGG file, and I have a WAV file. So I'll be explaining all this to us in a bit, but for at first we want to make use of this MP3 file. So I'm just going to right click on it, and I'm going to copy relative path. So I'm going to close that once again, and inside of my source folder I'm going to paste my relative path right there, and we see that the path is starting from audio, which is the one that is relative on the same, a sibling to the index.html file where we are working with, and inside of it we have the MP3 file. So I'm going to change this to /, and here if we go to our web page, we would see that this audio file is still not yet being displayed. As we can see here, the audio file is not yet being displayed, and this is because for it to actually display, we need to add the attribute controls, and this is what adds all the buttons that it needs to function, and then it actually displays on in our browser rather. So with that, we can actually have the audio file being displayed in our browser. Okay, I think my server already went down. It's already showing go live. So let's start the server all over again because of the switch in. Okay, so the server has been started. Now let's view our web page once again. Okay, so right now we can see this right here is now being displayed, and from there we can actually play the music just like this, and we can also mute it. We have our sounds back. We can see we can also download the song, so right there, just as we have it. So that is how to include an audio file in our HTML web page. Okay, so the other thing I told us that we need to be aware of is the autoplay and the muted attributes. So if I had autoplay here, now recall that earlier I had to play myself, and in the background I believe you can already hear the sound of the of the music, of the audio already playing. So if, let me just reload that all over again. So let me just okay, so let me add the autoplay again. I'll just remove and add it, I think. So that should work now. So it's going to reload. Okay, I think let me add it once again. So now we can see that it's playing on its own right before even the website is finished loading. So that is how that particular attribute works. The other attribute, which is the last attribute that I'm going to point our attention to, is the muted attribute. Now the muted attribute allows the audio to start playing, but we can see that the sound is already muted. Right here we can see that it's playing just like this, but the sound is already muted, and we can unmute it ourselves. So these are the attributes that the audio tag actually works with. Now there is another tag that is actually specific to the audio tag, and this is the source tag, which can be included in our audio tag, and it allows us to include alternative text. So that is what that allows us to include. We are able to include alternative text in our code. Okay guys, so if we have the source tag, we can have multiple files, and the supported file formats are the MP3, the WAV formats, and the OGG. So it's also, the source tag has two major attributes, which is the source, we specify the path. Also have a text in the audio tag, which is to display if browser does not support an audio element, because there are people using outdated browsers. The audio elements would actually not function right there. So we can actually add a text in the content of our audio tag to let our user know that, okay, the audio element is not supported on their browser. So let's see how that works. So right here, okay, the VS Code. So right here now, I can add a text here which says, okay, your browser, or let's say this browser does not support the audio element. So this browser does not support the audio element. So this would actually not be displayed as long as your browser supports it, but if your browser does not support it, it would actually be displayed. Okay guys, so let's move on. So here now, if we are to work with the source element that is to be included in our audio file, we do not need this right here. All we need is this. We already have our audio attribute element and its attributes. So I'm going to remove this muted, and I'm going to remove the autoplay. Then here I'm going to specify the source attribute, And the source attribute is a self-closing attribute, which means it does not have a closing tag. So it's a self-closing tag. So here the same goes for the source, and here in our source we need to specify the src, and we also need to specify the type. So here once again I'm just going to go to my audio. I'm going to copy. Now the mp3, which is the best quality, is what we want to put first. So here I'm going to say this, and here I'm going to specify the type, and for the type I'm going to say audio/mp3. so that's the type, and I can add other ones. So source src. I'm going to add the third one. I have the type. Okay, so here I'm going to specify I'm going to add the wave element, the wave file as the second file. Let me add /. I'm going to change this to // let me just close this, and I'm going to say audio/wave, and the last one I'm going to add the ogg file, and I'm going to say this is audio/ogg. Okay, so here we are actually adding them according to their level of importance as well. So when we run this, the mp3 file would actually be the one that would be played or be displayed. But if this file does not exist, instead of our audio not showing or not displaying, we can actually have the wave file being used instead. Now if these two files are not available, we also have this ogg file being displayed, used instead. So these are just alternatives to the original. So these two other ones are alternatives to this mp3 file in case it does not exist. So once we have that, now let's go back to our web page. Okay, so we have this right here. So I can decide to play this, and you can see this is playing right here. So now we can see this is 42 seconds. Let me remove that. So I'll just comment it out, and let's go back, and here we can see now that the wave file is a lot lesser. The first one we're using was 42 seconds. Now we have, this is a 5 seconds. This is just 5 seconds audio. So that is what we have here. So it's using the wave instead. Now if we go and comment that out as well, now it would actually make use of the ogg file, and the ogg file, so let's wait for that to load. And as you can see, the ogg file is 1 minute 15 seconds instead. So this is to show that we are actually making use of different files. So that is the essence of having this source element in our audio file, which is used to access alternative audio files. So that is just how we can make use of audio files. We can insert audios in our HTML code. Okay guys, so let's go back, and the next one that we are going to be looking at, the next element we are going to be looking at is a lot like the audio file, and now is the video tag. And the video tag basically follows the same rule, the same process as the audio tag. The only difference is, instead of us having audios, we are having videos. And here we have the source file supported, the source file, the file or the video format supported are MP4, WebM, and OGG file format. So it also follows the same thing, it's the same process just as we created our audio files. The only thing here is the tag, the difference in tag, and also the file format supported. So let's just quickly get on with that. So I'm just going to add comment here. I'm going to say video, and I'm just going to add that video, and it's the same thing. We can have a single video, we can insert it here. If the browser does not support it, we can actually add a message saying that this browser does not support the video element, and we can have a single video here. But let's just follow that and just add our controls, and let's create a source. I'm going to have src, I'm going to have the type. So let me just copy this. Okay, so I also have a video folder that has been created, so I'm just going to drag and drop that as well. I'm going to copy the folder, and we have it here. So we have the different formats here. We have the MP4 format, we have the OGG format, and we have the WebM formats. So I'm just going to include that very quickly. And so the MP4 format comes first. Okay, that's videos, not video, videos. Then the MP4 format. Then the type is going to be video/MP4. Then the WebM format comes next. So videos/WebM, video/WebM rather. And the last one is the OGG format. So videos. So that will be video/OGG. So with that, we can actually get that displayed in our browser. Okay, so I think I should remove the element that we are actually loading online, so that would actually reduce the increase the speed. So this picture that we are getting from an external website, I'm going to comment that out so as to increase the speed of our web page. And okay, so as we can see now, we already have our video included. So this is our video here, and we can easily play that. We can actually resize it to be full screen. As we can see here, we can reduce it back if it has. We can mute it if it does not have. I'm not sure this video does not have a sound, so it's not making any sound. And here we can also download it, and so on and so forth. So it also follows the same way. If we are to comment out the MP4, it is going to make use of the WebM format. So once I comment that out and our page reloads, we should see the WebM format, and you can see the WebM format here is not as bright as the MP4 format, and the same thing goes for the OGG format. So if I'm to comment out the WebM format as well, and we're left with the OGG format, we would also see the same image but with less quality. So here we have the OGG format as well. So guys, this is just how to add audios and videos in our page. And I would love you guys to actually leave comments as you're watching on whatsoever you are happy to have learned. And I believe that for some of us, the video and audio element is actually going to be new. So I want you guys to leave comments to let me know, and leave likes and so on and so forth. That will be so much appreciated. Okay guys, so moving on, now let's look at what we have next. And here now we are looking at links, HTML links. Now the A tag is used to define a link, the A tag or the anchor tag as we all know it. So the anchor tag is its official name. So but when we are using it as a tag, we use the A tag, but it is known as the anchor tag. So it takes an attribute href that specifies the path of a document we want to link it to. So we can use the A tag to link another website, another document, a section on the same web page using an ID, or we can use it to link to an email address. And it takes an optional attribute, which is target, that specifies where the linked document should be opened. So the A tag is one of the most important tags in HTML because it actually helps us to link a lot of things together. So let's see how we can work with that in our code. So I'm going to create that right here. So we have our A tag, and like I said, by default it has this href tag, and this href tag we can specify different things. So the first thing I want to be specified is link to an external website. So I'm going to add an external website here. Let's just say Google, and I'm going to specify the link to Google here. I'm going to say google.com. Okay, so the href tag is working as the source tag that we've been using before. So with that, let's go to our browser, and right after the video file, we can actually see that right there. We can see we can actually see the text here which says Google, and when we hover over it, right down at, I want you guys to pay close attention to this angle, and you see a link right there which is showing the link that we just specified. So once we click that, it actually takes us to the particular website that we stated, and as you see, we've been taken to Google home page, and we see that it actually took us away totally from our own website, and that is where the target attribute comes in. Now when you are creating a website and you are linking your web to another website, an external website, it is good practice to actually add a target to open a new tab, and for us to do that, we use target and set it to _blank. So this would actually open this website on a new tab. So your website will be intact, and the website you are linking to will actually open on another tab, so that the user would not lose experience of your own web page. So it is a very good practice. So here I'm just going to say go to Google, and if we look at our page, a little difference, I want to teach us a very simple tag that we can actually make use of. If we go back and let's see, okay, so we can see that our image, our audio, our video, and the link are all on the same line. Now something we can do is we can break each element to another line, and for us to do that, we can add a break tag, and the break tag is also just the BR tag. It's a self-closing tag as well. So I'm just going to add it after the image here. After the image, okay, I think so I'm just going to add it here, BR, and it's going to break that to a new line. I'm going to add it here as well after the audio. I'm going to add it after the video as well, and I'm going to add, let me add 2 to have enough space. Okay, so now let's go back, and we should have, so we have everything on a single line. So once we scroll down, we can see right down below, go to Google. Okay, so From here, if I now click on this, because of the target attributes I have added, it is opening on a new web page for me, and I can still see my own web page still right intact right at the top here. So I can easily navigate back and forth between the external website and my own web page. So that is a very good practice to actually inculcate. So another thing that we can do is to have it link to a particular section on our page, which is I believe we've had this particular we visited the website whereby where we click a button, it takes us back to the top of the page. So this is another thing that we actually use the anchor tag for. So here I'm going to add a break tag again, and after that I'm going to add another anchor tag. I'm going to add a break tag after it as well. Then here I'm just going to say go to top, and at the top of my page, the first element in my page, which is this h1 element which says welcome, I'm going to add an ID. An ID is an attribute as well, which is giving ID stands for identity. So we are giving that particular element an identity, and here I'm going to specify a name. I'm going to say top. So here this particular h1 tag is having an identity, and the name of that identity or ID is top. And I'm going to come down to my link tag right here, and for me to access that particular tag or the element, I'm going to use the hash symbol. So I'm going to say hash top. This top here stands for the name of that particular element, the ID I've given to it, the ID, any element with this particular ID. So if I'm to go back to my web browser, so I'm going to, we see this welcome here, and we see go to top right down below. So I'm going to close this Google page, and once I click go to top, we can see it moves me to the top of my page. It moves me, once I click it again, you see it moves me back to the top of my page. So these are some of the things that we can actually use the anchor tag for. We can also specify the other things in our anchor tag. We can also specify another document. We can specify an email address if we want it to send a mail to someone, if we want it to, probably we want them to be able to call us and stuff like that. So those are some of the things that we can also add to our href attribute to also do that. So let me just quickly show us how we can do that using our anchor tag, how we can insert an email address and a phone number. So here I'm just going to say I'm at an h tag, and I'm going to say mail me, and here I'm going to add a inside of my href I'm going to say mail to. I had a colon, and here I'm going to add the email address. So I'm going to add my email address here, and for us to add a phone number, so I can say call me, and I'm going to add tel here, which stands for telephone. I'm going to add my phone number as well. So what this does is, this right here, once you click on it, is actually going to open your mail, your default mail mail app on your either your phone or your system, and it's going to mail, is going to try to mail this particular email. So you would have to enter your message and so on and so forth. Then this as well opens your default call app to actually call this number. So if I'm to display that now, let's go to our browser, and we have that. So here, once I click on mail me, it will try to open my default mail app. As you can see, it's going to Google, it's trying to open my Google app, and here if I click on call me, it actually here is trying to say that okay, I'm trying to open an app to call and stuff like that. So that is how we can actually make use of the href tag in our page. So it is a very powerful tool that we can actually make use of. So for today's class, this is where we would be stopping, and in our next class we would actually be continuing from here. So I want to see your comments on how this video went. If you like it, please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and whatsoever you've learned from this class, I would gladly be happy to know. So thank you for joining this class, and till the next class, I hope you have fun learning today, and I hope that you will take all of that and use that to work as well. So thank you guys,